The fallen leaves tell a story.
Whether you are with or without a maiden within the world of Elden Ring, we have all at least been introduced to the game's partial guide and at times narrator, Melina. This young woman leads us through parts of the world on our journey to become Elden Lord, as she too seeks to discover her own forgotten purpose. There is little that has not already been speculated about this character, as she truly carries an air of mystery and intrigue. Whether it be some similarities to a certain blue-toned witch, a relationship with a mother who lives inside of the Erd Tree, or a reference to a so-called destined death, this character seems to know only as much about themselves as we do. Melina's part takes place mostly in words, but for one portion and one portion only, she can be summoned to fight at the base of the Erd Tree against Margot, the Omen King. In this fight, she aptly uses Erd Tree blessings, along with what appears to be her own weapon, the Blade of Calling. The description of this dagger references a line of dialogue we can hear spoken from Melina herself, when later in the story, she succumbs to her own prescribed destiny. Dagger given to one who set out on a journey to fulfill her duty long ago, the power of its former owner, the Kindling Maiden, is still apparent.
The one who walks alongside flame shall one day meet the road of destined death.
This weapon, reminiscent of the Persian Shamshir, can be found in a secret room within the Road Lift. Why this is here is a bit of a question, but even more mysterious is in the corridor leading to this room. Upon a corpse bears a unique guard with a grim description, the official's attire. Grubby blue robe worn by magisterial officials to carry out their grim tasks. Surveillance, executions, gruesome rituals, the darkest duties drive the wheels of mankind. This robe is actually a part of an outfit, namely the blood-soaked set, which consists of two other seemingly unfit pieces of cloth, the blood-soaked mask and the blood-soaked manchettes. Both of these blood-soaked items give reference to the festering body which resides underneath, and fashioning this outfit is the Inquisitor Giza, who we can fight as an invader within the Volcano Manor of all places. An interesting detail which I've found among certain corridors of the manor are paintings of a man shown wearing these same robes. The features in these paintings don't match that of Rykard, so I'm left to assume that this is Giza, or possibly even someone else. As slowly as it does surely, much as the wheels of man turn, with these clues the tone begins to shift. A simple blade carried by our seemingly innocent protagonist, found within a hidden room, suddenly leads us to a festering and blood-soaked torturer within the blasphemous castle atop a hostile volcano. Why? The association of the Volcano Manor may not be coincidental, but it is not so simple either. There are those obsessed with procuring that which feeds but does not hunger, and that which grows yet does not live. And common with this pursuit is the proverbial meeting of death. Similar to Melina, who courses this path by fire, lives another, Rykard. For all his scheming, this serpent of a demigod eventually became just that. After receiving a part of the death rune from his sister Ranni, and turning against the two fingers just as she did, he fed himself to the god-devouring snake beneath Mount Gelmir. The behemoth reptilian lurking here wasn't just a predator, awaiting to devour the godlike in its midst. It was also a deity, and the center of an old religion that predated even the Golden Order. Many were sacrificed in the name of this religion, as we can tell from the description on the serpent god's curved sword. In addition, as we can see and tell from various items and dialogue, the victims which came after Rykard would become a part of a family, conjoined, deformed, and twisted with a sickening vision of immortality. From the days of old and analogous to the current order which conflicts with those who live in death, exists this world-eating serpent which once lived in similar contrast to another, the Death Birds. These are the ancient envoys of the outer gods which pre-exist the Erdtree and pervade the lands between before the Elden Beast's influence. Their description explains their purpose as the following. The Death Birds are graveyard firekeepers. It is said they rake out the ashen remains of the dead from their kilns. Further, we can read from the explosive ghost flame sorcery. In the time when there was no Erdtree, death was burned in ghost flame. But even with all of this information, our path doesn't really become more clear. We still don't know why Melina's blade leads us to a magisterial outfit, which references torture, sacrifice, and even points to the Volcano Manor, which I believe is something of the point. Have you ever noticed ambiguity and thought it strangely poignant? Have you ever questioned why the Golden Order would choose to confine destined death in the first place? Have you ever wondered what would drive someone to become so disillusioned with this order? Have you ever stopped and noticed the wheel turning? In the beginning, everything was in opposition to the Erdtree, but through countless victories and war, it became the embodiment of order. This is the description of the protection of the Erdtree incantation, and it explains a very simple truth. The lands between are exactly as they state, lands between opposition. On either side exists multitudes of demigods, gods, and even outer gods, all extending unto the same looking pool and fighting over visages. It may not be a surprise to many that Melina is likely the daughter of Marika, but likely more surprising is the reality of that connection. Nowhere is there a reference to a lineage between these two, as we're left to assume by Melina's descriptions that she was born of Marika at the foot of the Erdtree. Marika may be her mother, but is it evident that she is her birth mother? The final piece of this puzzle, I believe, is both the most hidden and the most obvious. Upon the face of our gentle maiden, above her closed eye, exists a symbol, reminiscent in shape and vague in form, similar to the claw of a raptor. I do not believe that Melina exists solely as the child of Radagon and Marika, or simply as the product of Marika's intent to aid the Tarnished for whatever reason. Rather, Melina is a purveyor of life and death, the conception between orders, one old and one new, birthed in conflict and mothered by circumstance. I believe that she was sacrificed and burned in Deathrite to be brought back anew, and I believe she was, before she was again sacrificed for the coming of a new order, the Golden Order, and she has now been returned at the behest of both destined death, Deathrite, and the will of the outer gods. This is why she awaits her own sacrifice at the Giant's Forge. It's not because it's her destiny, but because it's her obligation, and we know this isn't destined because we can burn ourselves in her stead, and even quell the frenzied flame afterwards, to no ill effects. However, this wheel has been broken, not because Marika destroyed the Elden Ring, but because when Ranni cast away her flesh, so too did another demigod, resulting in the rune of death splitting, leading to the introduction of those who live in death. This cataclysm between life and death invoked an entity influenced not just by the order of the Erdtree, the Elden Ring, and the Greater Will, but the outer gods and the rites which precede them, thusly explaining Melina's connection between all of these elements. But just as so, we can see that her connections are merely superficial, as she not only plans to destroy the Erdtree, commit cardinal sin, and allow the Tarnished to reshape the Elden Ring, but she plans to carve her own path forward in doing so.
There is something I'd like to say. My purpose was given to me by my mother, but now I act of my own volition. I have set my heart upon the world that I would have, regardless of my mother's designs. I won't allow anyone to speak ill of that, not even you.
But what world does she see? What mother does she know? For what purpose does she care? And for what reason has she been wrought? As we tarnished decide the coming of a new age, we must beg the question: what next will stoke the Maiden of Kindling to burn?